free.
Taxation is a bit complicated, and the only way to demystify it and make it as easy to understand and to comply with is through engagement. Is there a limit to the number of cars a returning citizen is bringing into Uganda? Who has paid the excise duty on this water is not the supermarket which has sold you this bottle at 1,000. It's not the business. It is the man who is going to drink this water. We strongly believe that it will only be through such constructive engagement that we'll be able to broaden our tax base and build our country together.
Buza Commissioner. Now you can get direct answers. Send your tax-related questions via WhatsApp or SMS to 0790-141-887, and the Commissioner General of URA, John Musinguzi, will personally address them. Tune in to UBC News Tonight every Monday and Wednesday for expert insights and clear explanations. Buza Commissioner.
Kaze, I kept working even after I saw the rush. I was scared to go to the heresy facility. The mpox got worse and I stopped working completely for 2 weeks. Imagine how can a border rider survive if nobody wants to get closer to you. If I had gone earlier, I would have been treated sooner. People, don't wait like I did.
Protect your family and community by seeking treatment immediately you notice any symptoms of Mpox. For more information about Mpox, call the Ministry of Health's toll-free line on 0800 1000 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF, WHO and partners.
Yes, good morning again and welcome to this program of Pan-African Friday that comes your way every other Friday here in the studios, from the studios of UBC here in Kampala on Nile Avenue in the heart of Kampala. And as usual, we at this time, whether you are in your garden, whether you are in your office, whether you are in your house, we definitely get to you if you have the system through which we can communicate. Now, last week we were here and we were looking at issues of religion and Africa, and we were looking at issues that how religion affects us, the people of Africa. And we also discussed at length if Africa, for example, had its own religion or not. And we found out that definitely Africans didn't have a religion like a universal religion for all the continent of Africa, but the specific communities, ethnicities, had the way they were relating with God. You may call it a traditional way of relating with God, but of course all these religions have grown from that tradition, whether be them the Abrahamic religions or the religions of other communities, including the Asians and the Europeans and all the other communities of the world. And we missed Ndugu Rugarama, who I think was out. I hope by then we didn't have the petitions. He would have been at the tribunal, but he was out doing some other work. So, Ndugu Rugarama, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We missed you that 2 weeks at least.
Was it 2 weeks? I thought one. Okay. All the same, salutations to our esteemed viewers and good morning, Comrade Mututa. It is always a pleasure, of course, coming back home here. This is indeed our program, the Pan-African Friday, where we communicate and to the outer public, and the outer public communicates back to us.
Yeah, so last week we we were again moving with the religion, and we were here with the Nduku Kojo, and we analyzed that if that God, actually you're one person who said that thing, if that God does not understand your language, that you have to pray to him in a friendly language for him to be able to understand you. And that if that God does not know your music, that you have to play some foreign music for him to be able to understand, and that not even get that music from your instrument, but can only listen to that music if it is played from another instrument from somewhere else. That's not your God.
It's not, Comrade Mtuta, I can tell you and to all our viewers, it's not just me saying, but even our big brothers in the Pan-African sphere, and even, by the way, those who have advanced in the study of divinity, eschatology, and theology, will tell you that some man, for whatever reasons, decided to petition God, and God has been used, interestingly, has been selfishly used by some of us, to the extent that you will have a God to those who prescribe to Presbyterian religion, who must be worshipped in the Presbyterian way. God, those who believe in the Roman Catholic faith, is it a faith or religion, really? Will have to be, is looked at in the lenses of the Roman Catholicism, by way of making signs of the cross and that kind of thing. And it becomes a big deal. Those, the Seventh-day Adventists, those, and you see, because the religion is such, matters of the heart. In a majority of the cases, these religions, it is a question of the heart, not so much of the mind. Because when you go into religion and you use your head, you want to think, you become a problem to that particular religion. So they do not encourage, and this by the way, the thinking part of it is what led to the spirit of God, and if that was God anyway. Because you remember that we get the Anglican faith from the rebellion that existed in the Roman Catholic. Okay. You remember very well.
Now,
therefore, maybe if I could just wind up on this. Therefore, we get an issue that Africa, because if I heard you well, our topic is how Africa has benefited from these religions. Now, that presupposes that foreign religions at that. This presupposes that Africa is thriving, if thriving is the correct English word to use, in religions which are foreign. They are not indigenous. They are not indigenous to Africa. That is one. Two, that actually Africa, therefore, also had her own religion. I don't think it was one, a number of them, because if I may take a little bit back in the history, in a place like the current DRC, a big chunk of territory, they had, they believed, they had a set of beliefs, and it was almost like today we talk about Anglicanism. They were the big, very big chunk that would spread to go into some areas of Burundi, some areas of Rwanda, then a big chunk of DRC, and they were believing they had their domain. When Christianity entered, and this is true of even Islam, wherever Islam goes, like Christianity, like Pentecostalism, they will assume, and this is the superiority complex, they will assume that what is there is almost nothing where they have gone. They will set up a mosque, they will set up a church, they will not care what you people have and what you believed in. Then they will wholesale, not to adapt to how you have been communicating with your God, but wholesale to introduce a new set of your relations with the Almighty. And this Almighty must be theirs, not yours. The thinking, therefore, is that you don't have any God. They are the ones who are introducing this particular God. We go back to what Leopold II wrote when he was sending his people in the DRC. When he emphasized that don't waste a lot of time in that letter, don't waste a lot of time telling them about God, because they actually know God. Emphasize that things of here, of the earth, wealth is nothing. The biggest wealth is what they are going to find in heaven. Teach them obedience, how to obey their masters. And this largely the creation of seminaries where they train how the young boys are supposed to relate wholeheartedly to a God, how the Christians are supposed to relate to God. And this also goes in the mode of worship. Worship, there is a way Africans, through their religions, worshipped the God. When they came, they told us, not just even telling us, but they emphasized the fact that we had to abandon the way we worshipped, the drumming, the dancing, the chanting. They said all that was evil, even up to now, including even naming. That if, for instance, you call yourselves after names of your great-grandfathers, then that is a mistake, and it has got to be corrected by calling you names after the Bible. If you do not have a name which is corrected from the names in the Bible, then you are not Christian enough. So you can see, therefore, when it comes to, did Africa have religions? Yes. The answer is yes. What happened? Quote unquote, superior religions, Islam, which is not African. You can talk about, because, see, it is just recently that we started having local languages being used as a form of communicating to God. It was largely Arabic. Now, here in Christianity, be it Roman, be it Anglicanism, it had to be that the drumming, they recently, not long ago, accepted the African drums in the mainstream churches. Yeah. You see? Then when you look at the dancing, the dancing that when you dance the African way, it is obscene. It does not give God the glory. And you wonder, this God who created an African man to dance in the manner because dance is part of culture. It means, therefore, that we are shifting away, in my opinion, we are shifting away from the relationship with God, how to relate with God, to wholesomely taking on somebody's culture and using culture, somebody's foreign culture, you describe it as a religion, And then you claim that therefore, unless you do it that way, unless we do it the white man's way, it is impossible for an African man to interact with a God. Question is, I go back to what you said. Is this God therefore, who cannot listen? And remember, he's the one who created an African person like he created the European person. I so much believe actually that he didn't even create the white man. There is a very big likelihood when you go by science that because of weather, the white man, when he went where he became what he became. But all of us are black first, meaning the chances that God is black are almost 100%.
Okay, I like that. Now, we are now saying that for a Catholic, God is a Catholic. For a Buddhist, God is a Buddhist, is Buddha. For whoever believes, then God be. Of course, even Africans, we have names for the God. Whichever community that existed, there was a name that was given to God. But there was the names that were given to other gods. And we have seen this happen in most of the communities. There was a god for the lake in Uganda here, I think is Mukasa or something like that. We have the god of the mountains. We have the god of the plants. We have the goddess of love. And so each other particular environment, segment of society had a god. But I think what changes is now when the Christianity and Islam is introduced, we are now getting back to one universal God. But then in many other societies, these gods existed. You are talking about dancing, but of course, like Africans had a number of dances. There is a dance for every other occasion. There is a dance for celebrations of the wedding, a dance for the death, for those who still have some drum of the dance of the dead. We also have the dance when the children are born and are brought in the society. So maybe we Africans also have lost a point to the extent that most of our things are not documented, which was also a positive thing. That undocumented knowledge is hard to steal. Maybe that's partly the wisdom of Africa, was that the information shouldn't be documented. But could they write and read? Yes, we have seen that in some society communities, writing and reading was before the education of the colonizers came. Africans were doing some of these things. Maybe it was not an elaborate way of reading like now we are reading or writing the way we are writing, but there were ways of communicating from one person to the other. At least that communication was there. Now what failed was how to improve that. Now, when we get back to the topic, we are looking at if Africa has benefited from the existence or the presence of religion on the continent. The question may be yes and may be no, or will be answered by the end of this discussion. Now, let's look at some of the benefits that religion has brought. Start with education.
There is thank you so much for that. There is one thing you will permit me go back to it. You touched it, and it is about the record keeping as far as the Africans are concerned. Now, you see, there is a lot of falsehoods that have been paraded by the imperialists. The colonialist, when he was here, he found us with a very rich method of archiving our history. It is not true that Africa was lacking in librarianship. No. Otherwise, archaeology would be telling us a different story. Arguably, the very first university globally was here. University of Timbuktu.
Yeah, sure.
Now, in the University of Timbuktu, we had the study of medicine, because the very first method of operating the cesarean birth was being done here on the African continent.
Sure, yeah.
And the white man, characteristic of his ways, is the thief, you know. That is what he stole, and because of media, he has baptized it his. But Africa was the very first to carry out the cesarean C-section on our mothers who were giving life to the next world. Now, when you again come to the Islamic writings, it is claimed that during the days of Mansa Musa, and it is evidenced, it is not just a claim out of the blue, it is evidenced that during the days of Mansa Musa, arguably the richest man who had amassed a lot of gold, there were writings, part of what was captured by the colonialists around that time, and again stolen and taken to the museums in London and Paris and everywhere, those who participated in colonialism and slave trade, is a great work of Islamic writings, the literature of Africa, which was written in the Islamic writings around that time. And majority of it, because you see, there is a brand of Africanism and, if you like, Arabism, in as far as Islam is concerned. So, because you were asked that, but if now Islam is also a foreign religion, then how come that there were such writings on the African soil? So in other words, the point we are trying to make here is that even when you read a lot of the literature that was written by Cheikh Anta Diop on the history of Africa, you get the sense that Africa was doing a lot on her own in as far as archiving her, even the discoveries, by the way, from the archaeological discoveries, you will find that a lot of paintings, a lot of records were being kept. Olduvai Gorge, the discoveries that Africa was doing a lot of literature stock taking and archiving is not hidden. That fact is not hidden.
Yeah, but again, when to that point, of course, we are now looking at the issue of education. Even before the religious schools started teaching people, Africa, I think, was the cradle of knowledge.
Even man is the cradle of man. The first life is here, was started here in Africa. Then the rest come later. You remember when we were discovering fire here, we had left Stone Age, we had now started fire stage, then we started sharpening iron ore, making spears, shields and what have you. Around that time, the white man, now the Europeans and what have you, were still staying in caves.
Exactly.
Their civilization was still very raw. Of course, another person, especially these cantankerous so-called modern scholars, they have a habit, as if they have been recruited by the Europeans to do their bidding, of arguing, sometimes from pointless to nonsense. You will forgive my language, but for lack of a better phrase, to say, no, but if Africa was doing all that, how come now they are at a point where that's history for you? There is, in history, for instance, there was such a thing as Ottoman Empire. Do you know how great it was? Is it still there? Now that it actually disintegrated, does it take away the fact that it was great and it was existing? So this argument, some of our colleagues, by the way, in the academic world, who argue in the manner in which they argue, is very disappointing. The truth is Africa was great, yes, at one time, but later we were enslaved. We taken into slavery, our great-great-grandfathers. Later we were also colonized directly, partitioned and colonized, and then we are now trying to, and we fought, we shed away the skeletons of slavery, skeletons of direct colonialism. Now we are grappling with imperialism, and we shall also overcome. That is how history is.
Yeah, because we're coming back to that point of now neo-colonialism and neo-imperialism. But to that point, which again talking about record keeping of the Africans and the type of education that the Africans were going through. It is true that the education in Africa was given to a selected people, that not everyone was going to school like is the UP today and many other places, but that these selected people had a particular intelligence that they exhibited, and that was the talent identification. Each particular society, each particular kingdom had that in mind, that they would pick these young men, mainly we hear of young men, I'm sure young women were also involved, and they will teach them specific traits. Talk about the pyramids. Where did the mathematics of building these blocks come to be so perfect?
Up to now, it has defeated those who claim to have introduced education to. Let me tell you, my brother Mututa, education, the white man didn't introduce any education here. He actually destroyed. He came because he knew nothing. He actually destroyed the perfect, wonderful education system that we had. What am I saying? Whoever is listening to us and viewing us, this is what I'm saying. Even if we went conventionally, let's look at what education is. At the level of our great educationist, sociologist, Professor Edward Ezeu, the renowned Ibadan professor of education. He says education is that system of transmitting knowledge to a group of people, for them at the end of that transmission of knowledge to be able to solve their immediate and environmental problems. Are you saying that before the coming of the white man, Africa was not solving their environmental problems, those problems that were surrounding them? Is that the argument? Now, if we concede the fact that Africa was solving her immediate environmental problems, to be able to live in the environment they found themselves in. Therefore, how can it be true that by the colonialist coming, when he came and he brought Christianity, he established seminaries, he taught people how to speak English, this is the kind of English we are speaking, French in West Africa and elsewhere, Portuguese, etc. And that was the starting of our education system. No, I disagree. I will endeavor to tell the audience the following, that for instance, we had a method of writing here on the African continent, and things get extinct. That is no secret. Because somebody can argue that how come everything almost disappear? Yes, they disappear, but it does not mean that they are not going to come back. As long as we can keep talking, and when we are no longer there, those that we have been talking to will also take up and probably even talk better than we are talking, and also act better. We had Chunufo. We had hieroglyphics. All that I have mentioned had nothing to do with the white man, a European, a missionary, or anything like that. Meaning that we had a form of writing, and we had where we were writing. The pyramids you are talking about were not built by anybody. That whole place, by the way, where the pyramids are, was called Sudan. The seemingly white people you see in present-day Egypt, They just came there. They are not the original people in Egypt. I can tell you this, it is a historical fact. Sudan itself was spreading up to Egypt. And Sudan, by this definition, means the black. How could therefore a place that was called Sudan be now occupied by people who are not black?
Okay.
The point therefore is here that it is an embarrassment. It is an academic embarrassment. It is intellectual dishonesty. It is shambolic for the intellectuals that we have in modern times to carry out an argument and let alone sustain it that, look, we thank the whites for bringing education. Which education did they bring to us?
Yeah, because
start taking stock. What have we benefited from the kind of education? Even if by the way we stretch the education to roughly, averagely, 60 years backwards, what has Africa in the main benefited from this kind of education? I will tell you what our education system benefited us. Our own organic education system found the African man staying in caves. We discovered that this environment was not going to be healthy. We needed to advance. We left caves when we discovered that now, because we were gatherers and hunters in the initial stages, history is very clear about it. We said, no, we cannot stay gatherers and hunters. We must therefore advance into sharpening stones.
Yeah, but
when we sharpened stones, this is important, Comrade Mtuta. When we sharpened stones, we advanced from there. We said, now we have to discover fire. We started warming ourselves. When we discovered fire, then we said, now from there, yes, after discovering fire, we can now go into huts. We started living, staying outside in the wild and what have you. We are now staying in caves and huts. We built huts. From the huts, we started now sharpening, using fire, we started now sharpening iron or smelting. The white man is not in the picture. I want you to be with me here. The white man is not in the picture here. We started now getting iron ore and doing smelting. What you see like steel rolling mills, that the white man brought steel. Which steel rolling mills? We were having our own steel rolling mills a long time ago. Had they not interfered with the spears we were making, the arrows and bows we were making, the shields we were making, all that the white man was not there. The fire we were making now would be into intercontinental ballistic missiles. But they interfered and they arrested our scientific progress. The other thing I want to dismiss is those ones who argue that all that is hogwash. How come if you were all that, now you are no longer that, you are in fact worse off, you are corrupt as Africa, you are somebody, by the way, on a platform, this social media came. There is somebody I know, and he was making an argument that in terms of ranking, it has been discovered that actually Africans' IQ is lower, much lower than the rest of the. You can imagine that kind of rubbish.
Yeah, because
and we have such people.
I think the problem comes in here, which we see that it is true that the advancement we are talking about started with Africa. Now Africa was moving ahead regardless of the environment. And we have seen, again, especially for the case of Uganda, that when these guys came here, they reported back and said, I think some of the communities out there also advanced the way they do their things. When you look at the administration, we talked about their health. They could even operate a woman, recover a baby,
and
the
they
mother,
stitch back.
Yes, and the mother is okay. I can't imagine the experience there was, but that may have looked crude, but that was the beginning.
It was the best. Did the white man have any better?
Nothing, because for them
it was the best at that time.
For them, they could have nothing. Yes. Their best case scenario was the death of the mother and the baby. But
and yet for us, we were saving both the mother and the baby.
And that was
wonderful,
interesting. Now, some of these things, when again now the colonialism takes shape, are abandoned because now we even recently I was talking to someone and she was very concerned because the government of Uganda, for example, issued a notice saying that there must be no traditional birth attendants attending to pregnant mothers, I think, without going to the hospital. And this
maybe the clarification there. I think I have been following the Ministry of Health. What they are trying to do, you see, in every profession, you will have masqueraders. The unfortunate part, yes, the quacks. The unfortunate part is, even in the conventional medical medicine, in conventional medicine, by the way, we have got quacks there. There are cases and they are being prosecuted. Now, that is a big worry, and it does not take away the fact, though, that there are traditional birth attendants who are equal to the task, and they have been doing a great job. You don't know the amount of, because statistics do not usually come out. I can assure you, if you know, it's just because now there is increased awareness and people go to these conventional health centers, but the mothers who give birth in banana plantations at home, being attended to by these local birth attendants, the number is there. And you see, if we could harmonize, because ask yourself, how come that these mothers have been giving birth at home and they have been doing it very well? But even then, the health centers, these health centers we are having, if we could, because it is all science, being advancing in science, if we could have the traditional birth attendants also share knowledge with the conventional medical practitioners, so that they help each other, that would be very beautiful. Because we believe in preventive medication is very critical. You got countries with high life expectancy, countries like Cuba, for instance, the life expectancy which averages 84, 5, 86, they are almost going into 90s. Their strength is in preventive medication. They don't allow you to fall sick. Countries like Japan, this is what they call, in China, for instance, we have got here, they are introducing it. It is regenerative health care. People don't know about it. Our bodies are made of cells. I do not purport to speak for the medical world, but at least there is elementary knowledge which each of us should have. You see, we are made of cells, and we die every day because our cells do get torn. They wear off, and they go. It's like tires of vehicles which we drive. Later on, the tire wears completely, and so what we need to do now is not to think that the white man is the one who is introducing all nature of medicines and what have you. The so-called alternative medical care in China, for instance, is almost like the third national income good earner.
Yeah, but again, it's still the point of education. We know there are many things that we have to talk about, of whether benefited the African community or have not benefited. And one of them is education. It's true that a number of schools were put up. In Uganda, you can name them. And most of the original schools were either for the Catholics or were for the Anglicans. And this is where people from the royal family and other big families managed of the chiefs, because we talked of selected few. They were selecting these children from at least families that were in the administration, and they would then identify talent. And we have seen most of these schools started teaching these children from the chiefs' families, from the king's palace, and others. But of course, in the future, we shall see the problems there also. So when we're talking about health, it's one of the aspects of this education that was introduced, that was saying that the health was another factor which was very well elaborately addressed in the African society, that much as this information was not in the books, but the knowledge was there. It was passed on from generation to generation about how to treat someone when we gets a problem. I know in parts of the mountains where I come from, when a person had pressure, this is what I was told, there is sometimes a person, the body accumulates a lot of pressure from inside. Man, these guys will put you, they will get something like a small nail which has been sharpened, and they will open your blossom, and the pressure goes off, and then you are okay. The next, especially amongst, it was happening amongst children of up to 10 years. So when they pierce and the pressures, the person is okay.
You
And
see the point there, Comrade Mututa. The point, we may say, yes, the colonialist brought education, his form of education anyway. Colonialist brought God. Sometimes people are so bored, they will say that Africa didn't know God until the white man came here. I find that one extremely revolting. It makes my stomach revolt, because if really God, and I think to know that actually God is so much African, we now have a duty of those who masqueraded that they were bringing God to Africa. We now have a duty of taking the true God to them, because now what is obtaining is a realization that actually they had no God and they didn't bring any God to us. The things which they are doing, if you go to London now, what used to be like churches, if you go to France, the things they do, homosexuality, or LGTB stuff, the levels of corruption, you see, people don't know. The corruption they think is just stealing government money. What is France, London, etc., America, what do? They bomb other countries, they go into their territories, remove governments, start stealing raw materials, like America is trying to do, and they have been doing through MONUSCO and MONUSCO.
But
that is corruption.
Are they stealing? For
Yes,
example,
that is not just stealing, by the way, at a small scale. That is what we call stealing, corruption at a grand corruption at industrial scale. This is what they are doing. For us, we are just children in terms of stealing.
This was a point which would come under, when we're now talking about education and health, of course they are related. But you brought in a point which was going to come under the other social services, that Africa has also been supported in terms of crisis, in terms when we get food items, clothes, like we don't have ours. But now there is this issue. You were talking about the Europeans and the Americans stealing from Africa. For me, and I've said this a number of times, that maybe sometimes when they steal from us, I don't even blame them. Because if you are a man worth the name, you have a home, and then you cannot even take charge of your home, that someone can walk in your house, take a plate, take something, the last thing they will take is your wife. And you are like, man, they are taking my things, and you are a man. How could Africans sit back, and then Americans come in and tell Congo and Rwanda, say, look, the M23, stop fighting. We are going to help you to stop fighting, but if you don't stop, we are going to come in to disorganize both of you. But as we tell you to stop fighting, we are coming here to take these minerals for the next 30 years, so you keep quiet.
They are not only doing it in the DRC. In DRC, of course, they have been doing it. We all know the history of Democratic Republic of Congo, and we know that they have not started stealing the raw materials of Democratic Republic of Congo. In West Africa, until just recently, The pact for continuation of colonialism enabled France to keep taking the raw materials. In other words, Europe, largely speaking, Western Europe and United States of America, they are, for lack of better words, they are thieves. I will tell you that, and I'm not insulting anybody, I'm simply calling somebody what he truly is, because we know the ingredients of theft. From the legal perspective, when something capable of being stolen has been taken away from the owner without his authorization, and the intention of that person who has taken it away is not to return it, the offense of theft has been fully constituted.
Yeah, but here we're having treaties, we're having concessions, we're having agreements with these people. Yes, look, you come and take. I
will also tell you about that. An agreement is only an agreement when the parties who are the parties to the agreement are of equal. If they are not equal or trickery has been used, deception has been used to have the other party append his signature to that agreement is problematic.
Yeah, but
the kind of agreements you are talking about, the treaties you are talking about, like for instance, what was the Trump Accord that was signed in the White House? What you saw, what Zelensky was being forced to sign. You saw here during colonialism, the gun-bought diplomacy. And you say those agreements are correct, we are the ones who signed it. We know the agreements that we have been signing here, for instance, of power, the generation of power, the imbalance in trade that we have been having. When we know what our so-called former masters and some of these other powers do to us, when they put a situation, they put circumstances in place whereby they say, if this is not signed, this is what is going to happen. When we know that progressive governments on the African continent, which have refused to sign these agreements, their governments have been overthrown. Or if they are not overthrown and their leaders assassinated, if that doesn't happen, the Thomas Sankaras of this world, the Patrice Lumumbas of this world, you know the history. If the progressive leaders, even now, by the way, the Magufulis of this world, when they refuse to sign some of these agreements that you are blaming us for, then they are assassinated or their economies are sabotaged through the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. You cannot claim that those agreements are agreements that merit the name agreement.
Let me tell you something. Normally, and why for me I will never stop looking at African leaders as a problem, is usually that we have this for those who go to church, the bands, even in the mosque, I'm sure, when they're announcing a wedding.
Bands of marriage.
Yes. They are saying whoever has a reason as to why the two should not be united. Yes, mention it now or forever keep quiet. Now, when we see some of these engagements like this ones of DRC, which definitely any African man or woman will know it is not in the best interest of Africa, then if Africans cannot raise a hand to say this marriage should not go ahead, then we should keep quiet.
Not like that. We have raised the hand. We have objected. On several fora, we have rejected. We have protested. But we have not yet galvanized our efforts, consolidated our efforts in one block, like we did during the fight against colonialism, to push away the adversary. This is the only stage that we have not managed to achieve. But otherwise, to protest against the unfair, for instance, intrusion of the macro policies of IMF and World Bank, we have done it. To protest against the imbalance of trade, we have done it at in different forums. But most importantly also, when we go back, even by the way, to some of these foreign religions, and we say, the problem is that, of course, when we talk about religion, we are talking about, they call them matters of the heart. And I can assure you, we are having a very big problem. If we do not check ourselves, progressive governments now on the African continent, they check the spread of the so-called relationship between man and God by way of saying, yes, we appreciate the fact that God is there, but we must now. Because this business of every time, our people, our youth, are getting lost into this habit of, I must pray from Monday to Sunday. People are in churches, they are everywhere calling upon God. No, that is not the way to look for God. God must be respected, you must pray, but you must also at the same time work. And,
Okay.
the word, and the Bible must not be read out of context. The Bible guides you on how to be man enough, woman enough.
Even the Quran.
And even the Quran.
Yes, thank you so much, Ndugu Rugarama. I think these things, we have just touched the issue of education and relate to health. There are many things that we have to look at when it comes to what Africa has benefited, if they have benefited from the external religion, and we shall be looking at issues of cohesion. If we have been able to come together, to remain together, we will be looking at issues of administration, issues of governance, and at the end we shall find out if really Africa has benefited, and if it has benefited areas where it has benefited and the areas where it has not benefited. Unfortunately, we have to let the time go because there are many other programs that are coming up, and please don't go away. Stay tuned to UBC for the day and for the weekend. The sports environment is catching up fire. I know Ndugu Rugarama likes sports, supporting one of those colonialist teams. But that is his bid.
It is full of Africans. That's it. There are many Africans there.
So until next week, when we shall come back again, and thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time. Please have the best of the weekend and enjoy the weekend. Thank you for being with us, and bye for now.
This August, East Africa becomes the center of African football. CHAN 2024 is here, and it's bigger than ever. 3 proud nations, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, united by football, passion, and power. From the first whistle to the final roar, 35 thrilling matches, live, only on UBC TV and radio stations. Wherever you are in Uganda, from the city to the village, UBC brings CHAN 2024 to your screen and your radio. August 2nd to August 30th, it's football like never before. 1 tournament, 1 region, 1 heartbeat. CHAN 2024, live on UBC. Feel the game, live the glory.
Taxation is a bit complicated, and the only way to demystify it and make it as easy to understand and to comply with is through engagement. Is there a limit to the number of cars a returning citizen is bringing into Uganda? Who has paid the excise duty on this water is not the supermarket which has sold you this bottle at 1,000. It's not the business, it is the man who is going to drink this water. We strongly believe that it will only be through such constructive engagement that we'll be able to broaden our tax base and build our country together.
Buza Commissioner. Now you can get direct answers. Send your tax-related questions via WhatsApp or SMS to 0790-141-887 and the Commissioner General of URA, John Musinguzi, will personally address them. Tune in to UBC News Tonight every Monday and Wednesday for expert insights and clear explanations. Buza Commissioner.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world...
Praise the Lord. This is Pastor Ezekiel from Kenya. God is using him so mightily. He's a man of God.
For the biggest revival explosion, New Reference Center in the Church presents a revival hearing crusade by Pastor and an international evangelist, Ezekiel from Kenya.
Shine, shine, shine. You shine and you shine. And just in the name of Jesus.
It will be held from 13th to 17th August 2025 at Zambia Chirombe Grounds, Kampala. Time 8 a.m. Come and take your miracle.
Ono musumba Ezekiel okuva Kenya, musajja wa Katonda, Mukama amukozesa mujje mu crusade egenda okubeera ekirombe, manye obulamu bwammwe tebugenda kusigala kyekimu, mujje mu lukuŋŋaana. The Lord will seriously bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Hello, Kampala, Uganda. In response to the national call of strengthening the traffic security, Good Products Group HGO brand has officially launched the Rider Selection Campaign. Registration is now open. Visit www.riders.hgo.com. Complete your registration now for a chance to win exciting prizes including motorcycles, exclusive HGO gift boxes, and official rider vests, all while promoting safe riding awareness. This is how to participate. Pay the registration fee, invite 3 friends to form a team of 4, and your registration fee will instantly be refunded. Begin your journey of honor today. Don't miss this opportunity. Join the challenge, promote road safety, and become a pioneer rider. For details, visit the official Good Products website at www.hgo.com or call toll free 0800-335-555 or visit our offices at Kingdom Kampala 3rd floor to register now and win prizes worth millions.
You got us on your wallet. Bobby, again! What's this drama?
Drama? Colleagues, elections for special interest groups are calling. SIGs, elections. Youth, PWDs, elderly. It's time to vote for our leaders. June through August. From village to parish to district to nationals. Youth, PWDs, elderly. It's time, go vote your leaders. No! F-O-B! Elections are supposed to be peaceful. Easy vote, okay?
Youth, elderly, and persons with disabilities. It's time to choose our leaders. Let's show up and participate in the special interest group elections. Starting June through August this year. Your vote, your voice. My vote, my voice. This message is brought to you by the Uganda Electoral Commission.
At UNOC, we believe in safety.
Mileke World Music Festival is back. Fast 2nd and 3rd August at the Tropical Beach Garuda Entebbe. To get your ticket, dial *217*413#. Input the event ID 0706. Select ticket category. Input your PIN and you're set for the celebration. For more information, call 0752-833-111 or visit us on the web at www.mileke.org. Mileke World Music Festival is powered by UBC, inspiring Uganda.
You are watching the Doc Talk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Do you know that over 1 million people worldwide get sexually transmitted infections every day? That's a big number. Of that, it can be me, it can be you. That's why we're here to learn about sexually transmitted infections today. To our beloved viewers, welcome to yet this beautiful edition of the Doc Talk Show, which airs every Thursday on 9 p.m. This very station. So always keep it at Doc Talk Show, where we discuss health challenges and how best we can address them. This show is proudly sponsored by the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Uganda and Cameline Men's Collection. Please always give feedback, ask questions on the numbers that run below your screen. Today, I'm privileged to host two young doctors who are very, very passionate about sexual reproductive health. My name is Dr. Alex Resabula Luchams, and I'm your host tonight. I'm going to have Dr. Henry and Dr. Rogers as my panelists. I'm going to request them to use 30 seconds to greet us, our viewers, and then we start.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Alex, and our viewers. Good evening to you all. Like rightly introduced, my name is Dr. Sechanzi Henry, and I'm super happy to be here to share about this important topic today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henry. Then Dr. Rogers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alex. Yes, good evening, our dear viewers. My name is Dr. Rogers Senyonjo, and once again, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To our beloved viewers, we are going to rightly delve into our discussion, and something that I want to interest ourselves in is to understand what exactly sexually transmitted infections are, because some people just hear the word, but they don't know what exactly these infections are. And over to you, Dr. Sechanzi.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, sexually transmitted infections, as you hear the name, these are basically infections that can be transmitted sexually. You will also find terms like STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, but basically they mean the same things. So, and then some other people will put them as syndromes. Now, like here in Uganda, we have what you call syndromic management. Maybe we shall discuss it about later, but some of these, yes, we classify them as syndromes. So they're basically all these diseases, all these infections that can be transmitted from one person to another through sexual means. Now, also sexual means can go beyond the usual sexual means that we know of vaginal sex, but it could also include things like oral and anal. We know there are people out there who do this, but we shall not discuss more about this for now.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Henry, for that definition. Now I want us to delve into this classification, because I know if I say sexually transmitted infection, it's something that is very broad that we need maybe to discuss to our viewers so that they understand what exactly these STIs are. Despite and after knowing that they are transmitted through sexual contact, we now need to understand the exact sexually transmitted infections. So how do we classify them? How do we put them into classes? And what do we depend on to classify them?
Now, these STIs, there are quite a number of ways to classify them, but what I find more easy, maybe for our viewers out there, is to classify them based on what causes them. So most of these diseases will be caused by microorganisms. Usually, whenever I hear that it's an infection, it means that there is some agent that is coming in and is disrupting the normal physiology and the normal processes. So among the etiological agents, we have those which are bacterial. Okay, I mean, these are germs. Maybe you would say they are germs, but they are quite small germs, too small that we cannot see them with our eyes. So some of these germs could be bacterial, they could be fungal, they could be viral, or they could be parasites. I can maybe try to break these a little bit more. So in terms of sizes, usually bacteria are quite big, and some of the commonest that cause these STIs include things like Neisseria gonorrhoeae. That's one of the names of the bacteria, and as you can hear, the name gonorrhea, it causes gonorrhea. Yeah, so gonorrhea is one of the sexually transmitted diseases that we know. Then things like chlamydia trachomatis. So these are bacterial ones, and you realize that these bacterial ones are usually easier to treat. They're easier to manage compared to some of the other agents that we shall see later on. So, and there are quite a number of other bacteria. We may not really mention all of them right now, but just so that there are those which are caused by bacterial agents. Then after that, we have those which are caused by fungi. Okay, fungi are things like Candida albicans. It's a fungi, and it causes a disease which is called Candida. I'm sure you must have heard about Candida at least at some point. So that one is caused by a fungi. It's also more like bacteria, maybe in size, but it's actually different. Then we also have those that are caused by protozoas. Okay, there are those which are caused by protozoas. There are quite a number of protozoa agents that can as well cause sexually transmitted infections, as well as those which are viral. Now, the viral ones are usually very small. Viruses are very, very small. I think if you compare bacteria and fungi and the parasites, yes, you realize the viruses are the very, 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 very smallest, but all of them are small, but you can't even see these with our eyes. So viruses, there are quite a number of them. HIV itself is a sexually transmitted infection, because you all know one of the commonest ways, or the most route by which HIV is transmitted is through sexual contact. Then there are things like HPV. Okay, these ones which will cause some of them can even cause cervical cancer. Okay, so HPV has been implicated in causing cervical cancer. So basically, those are the main causes of these sexually transmitted diseases.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Henry, for that clarification. Dr. Rogers, I'll get back to you. Do we have any of these sexually transmitted infections being transmitted from one person to another because of hygiene issues? Because we've had so many instances where we get clients or we get patients, you find that they have sexually transmitted infections and they claim that maybe they got them from places or from washrooms. So are these, is it only through sexual contact, or there could be other means?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Alex. Now, just the way the name says, sexually transmitted infections, they are primarily transmitted through sexual contact. That is primarily transmitted through sexual contact, but that doesn't mean that it's the only mode of transmission. Okay, let me give you an example. When a mother is giving birth, for example, and she's having untreated gonorrhea, she can actually pass on this gonorrhea to the baby that is being delivered at that point. Mothers who have been pregnant, they know that during antenatal, it is a must to screen you for things like syphilis.
Yes,
because it can be passed down to the unborn baby. Okay, yeah. So it's not just through sex, but there are other means. We've talked about things like HIV, hepatitis B. This can actually be transmitted through maybe blood exchange. Maybe you've used an injection and it shares the same. Yes, you've talked about accidents.
Yes.
Yeah, so they can all come in to bring this. And then still, you've talked about hygiene issues. Yes, it is very, very true that someone can get an infection through the hygiene issues. Let me give you an example. If you're using a bathroom where someone is coming from, and this person actually had an infection, let me use, for example, had chlamydia, okay? And they didn't do well. They didn't do well with hygiene, and maybe the place is still wet. The urine maybe is still stained somewhere, and then you come in. There can be this splashback, as perhaps of the urine or whatever is there, and you end up getting an infection. However, this can easily now be transmitted to the other person, maybe your partner, through sex. Yeah. So you're getting it from the bathroom, but it can actually go on to be transmitted through sex. And then he has talked about things like candida, for example. Now, candida, you can actually get it without having any sexual contact.
Sexual contact, yes.
Just be that your immunity has weakened. Okay. There's some things like bacterial vaginosis. It's a condition where we're having an infection in the vagina, and it comes in when the normal flora, that's the normal bacteria that is supposed to be in the vagina, that normal environment is interfered with. Okay. You can actually end up getting these other abnormal infections coming in. They're able to colonize. And of course, when your partner comes to meet with you, they're definitely going to carry on this maybe to the next person.
Because actually, bacterial vaginosis has now been proven to be sexually transmitted. Initially, it was not, but now it has been proven through research that it can be transmitted from one lady to the other if they have one sexual partner who is a male.
And maybe one other thing we need to know is that STIs and UTIs are different.
Yes.
Many people tend to take these to be the same, thinking that, actually most of the people will confuse the two. Okay, but I want our viewers to know that a sexually transmitted infection is different from a
UTI,
urinary tract infection. Usually, I think the dilemma comes in is that usually these are the same organs. Okay, especially for males, is that this same urethra that you use to pass urine is the same, is in the same organ that your sexual organ. Even for the females, the urethra is not very far away from the main sexual organ. So these are quite different, and it's always incumbent upon you to go to a healthcare worker, explain to them. For them, they know, they can be able to tell that maybe this is an STI, this one is a UTI, and they manage accordingly.
Thank you so much, doctors. I request us to use likely 1 or 2 minutes before we go for a short commercial break to briefly talk about the epidemiology, or how big is this problem. In just a minute, how big is this problem of STIs in our communities where we live?
Dr. Alex, this is actually a very huge problem. Yeah. Where I work, in a setting where I work, at the clinic where I work, every single day I receive about 10 ladies on average. It could be less or low, but on average 10 who come in and they're complaining about maybe an abdominal discharge, okay? Complaining about maybe low abdominal pain, who come in complaining about genital itching, or even sores sometimes. So this can just show you, just from that, without even mentioning the figures, just from that picture, that it's a very common challenge. You already told us from the global picture,
perspective,
that every single day, over 1 million new STI infections, new STIs are acquired. Okay, and this, of course, it's combining everything. But when you try to break it down, for example, syphilis alone, in 2022, let me use that example. 2022, over 80 million syphilis infections, only syphilis, were acquired. Okay, that just shows how big the problem is. And what is surprising, it is previously it used to be mostly among the young people, the adolescents. Of course, it is still high among the young people because most of them are just starting to get sexually active. They are not well empowered, and they end up actually messing up. But also right now we are seeing it so much now in the married couples, and the question is why. So maybe that is for the viewers to answer.
Actually, maybe to add on that about epidemiology, most of the people who have these STIs are aged between 15 to 24 years. That means they're quite young.
Those are the young people.
Yes,
they're the most sexually active.
Mostly in sub-Saharan Africa and in low and middle-income countries. Maybe if we have more time, we can discuss about why is it more in low and middle-income countries.
Okay, thank you so much for that discussion. I request that we first go for a very short commercial break, and when we return, we shall delve deep into the reason as to why they are more common in that age group that we've talked about, and the sub-Saharan Africa or sub-Saharan area of Africa. Let's go for a short commercial break. When we return, we shall be right back to continue the discussion. Thank you.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Since 2015, Quiz Mali Production has been at the forefront of media innovation. Our passion for storytelling and creativity has driven us to deliver over 100 successful projects, making a lasting impact on the industry. With 4 highly acclaimed TV shows, we've become a household name, bringing quality content to your screens. At Quiz Mali Production, we specialize in content creation, digital media marketing, media buying, and documentaries. We plan corporate events, provide top-notch photography and videography services, and offer seamless translations and live streams for your every need. Join the hundreds of satisfied clients who trust us to bring their visions to life. Quiz Mali Production, your partner in media excellence. Visit us at Quiz Mali and let's create something amazing together.
You are watching the Doc Talk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Our dear viewers, welcome back from that short commercial break. This show is proudly sponsored by the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Uganda and Cameline Men's Collection. Please follow us on our different social media platforms and give us feedback on the number that runs down your screen. As we are going to the short commercial break, we are discussing the reasons as to why this disease is commonest in Africa and specifically sub-Saharan Africa. And I request Dr. Stians to come in and give us the reasons, that reason.
Okay, thank you very much. So now, I realize that here in sub-Saharan Africa, our sexual education is quite lacking. I think it's because of our social, our religious and cultural factors. Is that
Cultural beliefs and religious beliefs.
Talking about sex here in Africa is something that's not quite common. Our parents rarely talk to their children about it. So, and the reality has come to show us that even if they don't talk about it, somehow the children find the information. But usually they find the information in the wrong way and from the wrong people.
Or inappropriate, depending on their age.
Yeah, for instance, we always encourage people to abstain. Okay, that is what science will tell you. That's what most religions will tell you. But the reality gets to be different in that, much as yes, that's what we want, but it doesn't happen. So, because of this, many of the children out there, they don't know what to do and they find themselves making a mistake. So by the time usually they come to us, it's quite late. So I feel like we need to improve on our sexual education as a whole of Africa and Uganda in particular, so that we sort of try to reduce on this burden. But of course, there are quite a number of other reasons as to why this problem is quite common here in our setting. Of course, things like poverty, they further compound it. Many of the young children will be lured into early sexual debate at quite an early age. I don't know if Dr. Rogers wants to add on that.
No, basically it is mostly our socioeconomic status in sub-Saharan Africa. It is still very, very poor. We are very poor.
Plus all levels of education.
Yeah, all those things come into the picture. Yeah, so basically it's relating around that as to why it is high in this.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rogers and Dr. Henry. So now we are going to talk about the risk factors. If I'm residing in an area that you talked about that has a very high prevalence, what puts me at risk of getting these STIs? I'll go with Dr. Rogers first.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Alex. Now, I don't know what your experience is, Dr. Sechans, but from my interaction with the people who have had these STIs, it is actually sexual behaviors, what we call risky sexual behaviors. That is the main risk factor that is responsible for this. And of course, someone might ask, what are the risky sexual behaviors? Because people might not know. It's talked about our education levels and the sexual education, they are very down. So some of the risky sexual behaviors, one, anyone who is having unprotected sexual intercourse is actually at a risk. Whether you're faithful, because you don't know if your partner
is also
faithful. Yeah, so as long as you're sexually active, you're actually at the risk of having an STI. Okay, and that's why we recommend protective measures, definitely. And if you're someone who has multiple sexual partners, you're definitely at a risk.
At a higher risk.
At a higher risk of actually, it's a higher risk of having an STI. I mean, since you have multiple, maybe the other person also has multiple,
yes.
And it's just more of a chain of partners.
They call it a sexual network.
Exactly. So
having a rich sexual network.
And also, of course, there are some behaviors that especially young people have. For example, let me say drinking alcohol. Now, I'm saying drinking alcohol, but I want to put in the context of risky drinking of alcohol. Yeah, because we all drink alcohol at one point, you know. But you find young people go into groups and they drink themselves and out, you know, they lose their reasoning, they make irrational decisions. I had a client who came in, sorry for saying this, I know he's not watching, but they actually ended up blacking out when they were partying, and the morning they found condoms. Not condoms everywhere, but they're not sure if they were used or not. Okay,
whether they were used on them or not as
Yes.
well. Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
So but they don't know what happened. So those are the risky behaviors we're actually talking about.
And
Okay?
usually you're not sure whether this person used these condoms correctly and consistently. Because
Exactly.
at times people that come with signs and symptoms which are suggestive of STIs, usually when you ask them whether they're using condoms or not, one of the things that will tell you, we are using condoms. How are you using them? They are usually using them on the first sexual encounter or the first round. Then from the second round and onwards, it's always meat on meat, as youths usually say. So the sexual behaviors, as you said, also determine because people at times can report to be using the correct sexual behaviors or the protective sexual behaviors, but they're not using them correctly and consistently. I think I'll go to Dr. Sachans to tell us other risk factors to these sexually transmitted infections. Over to you, Dr. Sachans.
Okay. So Dr. Rogers has given us an example.
This week, I am therefore keeping fort, and I have her permission to lead this team.
Actually, the permission you need is ours, not hers. We will get